Welcome back to the channel, and today we're talking Transformers, and we're talking Lorenzo Di Bonaventura talking about the live action franchise, and he's confirmed some huge developments. Now before we get into it, I want to make sure you are subscribed to the channel with the notification bell turned on so you stay up to date with all my Transformers content. Now, this article was brought to my attention by Prime Speculator. He has a YouTube channel, so if you want to go and check him out, make sure you do so via the description box below. He's a very passionate Transformers fan, and I found this when I was scrolling through my timeline on my Twitter page, which you can follow me at Delzinski, and I saw him responding to a tweet about this article which he'd read, and he didn't seem too happy by it, and I can maybe see why, but it does depend on how these developments unfold. So again, a huge shout out to Prime Speculator, because if I hadn't have seen this with him talking about it on my timeline, I may not have talked about it myself. And again, he is linked in the description box below, and so is the link for this article. But Lorenzo Di Bonaventura has been talking, flapping his gums once again when it comes to the live action universe and the future of Transformers. Whew. Brace yourselves. Okay, so the basis of this article is that Lorenzo Di Bonaventura was giving an interview to a Japanese movie website, and he stated that he's currently overseeing the scripts of 2 Transformers sequels. Important word there. Sequels. Now let me go ahead and read you the extract that Lorenzo Di Bonaventura said, and then we can discuss it. So this is the lead-in. Di Bonaventura talks with smiles. Well, Prime Speculator wasn't smiling after he read this. Let's see if I am. Our greatest mission is to the audience to be satisfied, to meet the expectations of the audience. To that end, he and his colleagues are already working on a new series, and Di Bonaventura says this: "We are already working on 2 projects and are in the process of writing a script. One is the latest in the main family series following Transformers The Last Knight, and the other is a sequel to Bumblebee." So, I'm just going to pause here because I'm giving you warning. The next few lines are a bit wavy. I mean, it just kind of falls into utter nonsense. But I'll read on and you'll understand what I'm saying. So, we are thinking of works where Optimus Prime and Bumblebee will be the buddy. But when Optimus and Bumblebee are the movies of the protagonists, how human beings get involved in their drama in the first place, the size is different between human beings and theirs. It's a worrying point. Ha 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 ha. There was a little laugh there in brackets. So after we mentioned the buddy point, I was lost. I don't really understand what he's talking about. Now he's talking about the size of Transformers to humans, I guess. I thought we established this in Transformers 1. If we haven't worked that out yet, we haven't come very far, have we? I don't get what he's trying to say there. So if anyone else can actually, break down what he's talking about here, I'd be very interested to find out. I get that this hopefully will follow on from Bumblebee. It's supposed to be a sequel, so that does make sense. And I would presume that it will continue with Optimus Prime being on Earth with Bumblebee. Fine. I don't understand then where he says it's a worrying point, as if to say, well, it's going to be difficult to factor them in with humans, which Bumblebee achieved seamlessly. So I don't get all that, but that's not really the worrying point. The expectation of a Bumblebee sequel was certainly on the cards, and I am very much looking forward to that. I think Travis Knight, if he reprises the role as director, which I hope he will do a fantastic job, because he kept it simple in Bumblebee 1, and I don't think he will deviate away from any sort of vision that he has. I think he can build that story, and the Bumblebee franchise is going to go to greater heights. However, The worrying point is any reference at all to Transformers The Last Knight, which Di Bonaventura has mentioned, because he says that 1 is the latest in the main family series, which is talking about the Bayverse following Transformers The Last Knight. So that would mean that if we're still looking at that main family of Transformers films, there's potential that the Bayverse isn't dead. And I say it like that because I'm not even so sure anymore, because Hasbro had confirmed that Bumblebee was going to spark a new direction of Transformers films, so I think we all considered that this was a reboot. But again, these sort of comments blur the lines. And what I kind of take away from this extract is that, well, Lorenzo Di Bonaventura sees Bumblebee as a great franchise on its own, and that can get critical and financial success, but let's also make more financial success with the main family series and potentially continue on with something after The Last Knight. So whether or not Bay returns, it feels like they're going to try and entwine the detail from The Last Knight for something else. And it does kind of, in a way, make me feel a bit like the DC setup and not like the Marvel setup for a cinematic universe, where one is not connected to the other. Like the DCEU is not connected to the Joker movie. Well, they're kind of doing that in the way that Bumblebee will not be connected to whatever is following on from The Last Knight. Now, I'm not entirely sure what that is, what he's referencing there, because we know there's a Cybertron movie that's in the works that's going to come to maybe Netflix or something, or a Siege series that's going to come to Netflix. It's very confusing. It really is. When somebody goes on record and says these things, when you think you know what's going on, which I think many of us thought we knew reboot was on the way, this just only confuses matters further. And apart from seeing it as a money spinner that you have two on the go, I see no purpose to continue on anything from Transformers The Last Knight. It really is not necessary. It will not enhance Transformers as a franchise, because many of the fans had turned on the Bayverse. Now, I don't hate the Michael Bay movies, not at all. If it wasn't for Michael Bay, we may never have seen Transformers on the big screen. If he had not picked up the franchise, then we would never have got Bumblebee. So I'm never going to hate on that, but I felt like the time was up, and it was time to move in a new direction and start to build from Bumblebee and just tell stories from different Transformers, and in a way do it like DC are doing, but not have a continued on universe as well. I mean, the DCEU is up in the air. We have no idea what they're gonna do. It doesn't sound like they're ever going to continue on anything from Zack Snyder. So when I think that way, I think, well, they've got it right. They're willing to move away from that to get to a good place. Whereas Lorenzo Di Bonaventura wants the best of both worlds. He wants to continue on with something from The Last Knight, but also have the success of Bumblebee moving forward too. And I don't get it, but it is very clear that something is being thought about when you are referencing the latest in the main family series, which I can only take is a combination of Transformers, which would mean a bigger Transformers film. Now, I'm all for a bigger Transformers film, but not if it has anything to do with The Last Knight. I would have said a while ago, before we got Bumblebee, complete the Bayverse with a Transformers 6 at the time, finish it, be done with it, then maybe have worked on Bumblebee. Or if a sequel to The Last Night was already in production at that point. Just finish it, because I think some people do want closure. But now, to start talking about this, that you're going to have a script for it and things like that, it's like, no one's asked for this. Nobody. So I'm very confused, and I'll kind of apologise, because I don't mean nobody's asked for this. I'm sure there are some people out there that would like that, but I felt like the majority did want to see a reboot of the live action universe, where you can take different Transformers, for example an Optimus Prime standalone movie that could be separate to anything related to Bumblebee. So you could have the Buddy movie. That sounds good, it sounds decent to me. But you could have that, and then in addition to that, you could have an Optimus Prime origin story, which tells the history of Prime, maybe the war of Cybertron and the battles between him and Megatron. That could be told, and that doesn't have to have any connection whatsoever. But to start refocusing on the main family series, following on from Transformers The Last Night, I mean, what are you following on from? I'd rather you go away or just not mention that at all, and have, if you are going to do that, a Prime film, a Megatron film, tell the history, a Cybertron film, those sort of things. And let me just read an extract from the article, the ending piece of the article. And if you want to read this for yourself, you can do so via the description box below. And I do understand the reservations from Prime Speculator. I totally do, because I don't think any of us thought this. And so I'm kind of thinking at the moment, look, maybe not jump the gun, because we may be taking too much into what he's saying at this point, and this might develop further, and we keep getting confused feedback from Hasbro, because Hasbro are kind of saying a different thing. They're saying this is a reboot, we're going forward with this, and then Di Bonaventura is saying, well, there's more than just Bumblebee going on, and it doesn't sound like he's mentioning the Prime movie anymore, which is disappointing. But the final piece of this article said, this of course puts the whole kibosh, I think that's how you say it, on fans wanting a complete reboot. Of course, the fact that the same producer overseeing the entire franchise at Paramount has confirmed that there was no reboot all along was a pretty good hint. So that line is referencing when Di Bonaventura said that he doesn't really believe in a reboot. He said this before, but I think that was just kind of, trying to cover up the fact until he understood what was going on with Bumblebee the movie and how it became a success and yah. So I kind of get that smart line at the end, but it does really put a question mark over now what is going on with this franchise. It was perfect. It was set up so perfectly to take forward, in my opinion, and to say thank you, Michael Bay, but now we move on. But now if we're mentioning the main family series of Transformers following The Last Night, I think that's all I can really say. So anyway, I'm a bit shell-shocked by it, to be honest with you. It makes no logical sense to me. Yes, it might make money, but I thought we were now in the business when it comes to Transformers of making money and making good, solid Transformers films, not something like The Last Night. I thought that's what we were moving into the business of, Paramount and Hasbro. Rotten Tomato, got a great score. Transformers The Last Night, it didn't, and it didn't perform that well at the box office either. Anyway, get involved in the comment section and let me know what you think. This totally puts a spanner in the works of it being a straight up reboot with Bumblebee and the universe going forward from there and building upon it. Almost like now you could have two split universes, one with Bumblebee and maybe just a trilogy of Bumblebee films. That's all that will become. And then some focus on the main family where it either continues on from The Last Night or it takes extracts from The Last Night and it boots it forward from there. No idea. But honestly, it's a good talking point, and if Lorenzo Di Bonaventura speaks more on this, I'll be certainly commenting on it and talking about it. And as you can kind of tell from my tone, I'm just a bit like bemused. When will they get it? When will they get it? They just nailed it with Bumblebee and had a great opportunity here to build a cinematic universe. I mean, you could, it may never ever reach the heights of what Marvel have done, but you had a fantastic opportunity to take characters, build upon them, and create something, and you're revisiting that main family of films. I don't know. I mean, if I'm over-analysing this, it may be the case. But what else are you supposed to take away from those lines, those comments? And again, I've linked the article so you can read it for yourself in the print. There's not really anything else you can take away from it. I've also linked Prime Speculator because he has reservations too. Like I said, if it wasn't for me catching his tweet, I wouldn't have talked about this. So make sure you go and check him out. His link is in the description to his channel. He's a very passionate Transformers fan. I know that. And yeah, what do you guys want? I mean, what do you take away from this? Is this what you saw coming off the back of Bumblebee, to have focus on the main family series and something from Transformers The Last Night, and then continue on with Bumblebee? I honestly did not think that would be the case. Yes, you could have a big family-like Transformers movie at some point down the road, but I thought it was a great time to re-establish, reinvent, and rework characters that you made mistakes from in the Bayverse. We'll see. But anyway, the Bumblebee section sounds alright. So I want to get your views, and I guess all that's left to be said. If you've got any more details about this, let me know. But very bizarre. Very, very bizarre. This is Delzinski, wanting to hear your points on what Lorenzo Di Bonaventura has done once again. Another bombshell from Big Debona. This is Delzinski signing out.